The cabin lights were dimmed for the long haul from Chicago to Atlanta, but sleep was impossible. The air felt thick, recycled, heavy with the scent of coffee gone cold and the faint metallic tang of recycled oxygen. At row 17, seat C, Marcus Tate bounced his 6-month-old daughter, Amara, against his shoulder in a rhythm that had long ago lost any hope of soothing her. Her cries weren't the soft whimpers of tiredness anymore. They were sharp, frantic, red-faced screams that sliced through the white noise of the engines like a siren no one could turn off. Marcus was 34, broad-shouldered, skin the deep brown of polished walnut, wearing a faded gray hoodie and jeans that had seen better days. His locks were pulled back tight, but a few strands had escaped, sticking to his sweat-damp forehead. He'd been a single dad for exactly 5 months and 12 days. Ever since the hospital monitor flatlined and the doctor turned to him with eyes full of practiced sympathy. Amara had been 3 weeks old when her mother slipped away in the night, leaving behind a tiny girl who cried like the world had already broken her heart. Tonight the world felt broken again. The baby arched backward in his arms, tiny fists pounding his collarbone, face scrunched so tight her cries came out in hiccuping bursts. Marcus rocked harder, murmuring the same useless phrases he'd repeated 1,000 times. "It's okay, baby girl. Daddy's here. Shoo, we're almost there." His voice cracked on the last word. He could feel eyes on him, side glances from the businessman across the aisle, the older white couple 2 rows up who kept sighing loudly, the flight attendant who had already passed twice with that tight, polite smile that said please make it stop without saying it. A woman in 18A, middle seat, shifted away as if the sound itself might contaminate her. Another passenger, a man in a suit, muttered something about "control your kid" under his breath, loud enough to carry. Marcus's jaw clenched. He wanted to snap back, to explain that Amara had colic that no pediatrician could fix, that her mother used to sing old gospel lullabies that somehow worked when nothing else did, that he was doing the best he could with a heart still bleeding. But the words stayed locked in his throat. Instead he stood, carefully, knees bumping the seat in front, and began pacing the narrow aisle between coach sections. Up and down. Up and down. Each step jolted Amara higher, her cries peaking then fracturing into exhausted sobs before building again. Passengers avoided his eyes now, staring at phones or closing them in exaggerated sleep. A toddler in row 19 stared openly, thumb in mouth, as if trying to understand why this bigger baby was so angry. Marcus's arms burned. His shirt was soaked with spit up and tears, hers and his. He pressed his cheek to the top of her downy head, inhaling the sweet baby smell that still caught him off guard every time, reminding him she was real, alive, his. "I got you," he whispered, voice raw. "I got you, Mara. Just hold on." He didn't notice the woman approaching from the back of the plane until she was right beside him. She was maybe 30, caramel skin glowing faintly under the overhead reading lights, braids swept into a high bun with a few loose curls framing her face. She wore a simple navy cardigan over a white tee, yoga pants, and scuffed white sneakers. A thin gold chain rested against her collarbone, catching the light. In her arms she carried nothing, no bag, no blanket, just calm purpose. "May I?" she asked quietly. Marcus froze mid-step. Her voice was low, steady, the kind that cut through chaos without raising itself. He looked down at her, searching her face for judgment, for pity, for anything that would make him feel smaller. He found none. Only recognition. The same tired shadows under her eyes that he saw in the mirror every morning. He hesitated. Every instinct screamed protect her, don't let anyone close, but Amara's cries were turning hoarse, her little body trembling with exhaustion. He was out of moves. Slowly, he shifted Amara toward the woman. She didn't grab. She waited until Marcus loosened his grip, then cradled the baby with practiced gentleness, one hand supporting the head, the other cupping the back like she'd done it 1,000,000 times. Amara's screams hitched, surprised, then renewed with fresh fury. The woman didn't flinch. Instead she began to hum. It wasn't loud. It wasn't showy. Just a soft, rolling melody that started low in her chest and rose like warm water. Marcus recognized it instantly, Amazing Grace, but slower, almost whispered, the way his late wife used to sing it when Amara was fussy at 3 a.m. The notes wrapped around the cries, not drowning them but holding them, rocking them. Amara's body stiffened, then slowly, impossibly, began to relax. The woman swayed gently, right there in the aisle, eyes half closed as if she were the one being soothed. She switched to words, barely above a breath. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound. That saved a wretch like me. Marcus stood rooted, breath caught. The cabin seemed to quiet, not completely, the engines still droned, someone coughed, a phone buzzed, but the sharp edge of tension eased. Heads turned slowly. The businessman lowered his tablet. The older couple exchanged a glance. Even the flight attendant paused mid-stride. Amara's cries tapered. Not gone, but softer, hiccuping now instead of screaming. Her tiny hand found the woman's collar and gripped, knuckles paling. The woman kept humming, transitioning seamlessly into His Eye is on the Sparrow, the same song Marcus's wife had sung at her own funeral, the one that had broken him open in front of 300 people. Tears burned Marcus's eyes. He blinked hard, but one escaped anyway, tracking down his cheek. He swiped it away quickly, embarrassed, furious at himself for falling apart in front of strangers. The woman glanced up at him, still humming, and offered the smallest smile. Not triumphant, not pitying. Just I see you. She kept going, verse after verse, until Amara's eyelids fluttered, heavy. The baby's breathing evened out, chest rising and falling in time with the melody. When the last note faded, silence settled, real silence, the kind that feels holy. The woman didn't hand Amara back right away. She waited until the baby's head lolled fully against her shoulder, mouth slack in sleep. Only then did she ease the tiny body toward Marcus. He took her carefully, arms trembling. Amara didn't stir. Thank you, he managed, voice thick. The words felt inadequate, too small for what had just happened. The woman nodded once. She's beautiful, she said simply. Then, quieter, I lost my boy last year. 9 months. Same kind of colic. Same kind of nights. She swallowed. I still sing to him sometimes. In my head. Marcus felt something crack inside his chest, grief recognizing grief. I'm sorry, he whispered. Me too. She touched Amara's tiny foot where it dangled from the blanket. But she heard it. She knew. Before he could respond, she stepped back, gave him one last look, steady, kind, and returned to her seat near the rear galley. No fanfare. No lingering. Just gone. Marcus sank back into 17C, Amara warm and heavy against him. The plane tilted slightly as it began its descent. Outside the window, clouds glowed rose-gold in the pre-dawn light. He looked toward the back of the plane. The woman had her head against the window now, eyes closed, a single tear glistening on her cheek. He didn't know her name. He didn't know if he'd ever see her again. But in that moment, 35,000 feet above the earth, two strangers had carried each other's unbearable weight for a few fragile minutes. And for the first time in months, Marcus didn't feel quite so alone.